Good morning, CHEM1010 class. We are in week 5, module 5, and here's what we've got going on this week. This is our home page. You'll see the announcement here once I finish this. If you're watching this, there's an announcement that will take you to the weekly updates. If I go there, all right, the weekly updates gets updated weekly. You can always go back and see any of the videos from the past weeks, which may help you with reviewing, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I like this view of the schedule. We are here Monday, April 14th. It is the last day to withdraw from a class, but don't withdraw unless you talk with your advisor. There may be some scholarship / financial aid repercussions, so be sure you talk with an advisor if you're thinking about withdrawing. We are on to Module 5. We have a very typical week. Homework 9 due, homework 10 due, our quiz, and we do have 2 labs this week. One of the labs is tied in hand with the homework questions and the quiz questions. You'll be working on those. So that part of it, that lab report, is going to be just like continuing to practice your lecture. Module 5, we're working on electronic structure, Lewis structures, and shapes of molecules. The labs for this week, labs 7 and 8, we're doing Lewis structures and shapes, which again goes hand in hand with your lecture. And we're doing the petty lab, which is about taking measurements. All right. Let me skip down here to our module 5 for week 5. We have our typical arrangement of reading and videos, homework and quizzes, and labs. Just looking ahead, we have week 6, week 7, and that final exam is the tail end of week 7. We are taking the final exam the last week of class. 7-week classes will often do that instead of taking them in final exam week because of the nature. The first 7 weeks has to do that, so a lot of people go ahead and make the class exactly the same in the second 7 weeks. All right, so in Module 5, we have our typical textbook assignment, homework and quizzes, and labs. Let me click into each one. There is our reading assignment for this week. We are covering 2 chapters, but we're skipping around a little bit. And so take a look at the reading as you begin working on your reading and your homeworks. Start on your homeworks. Always finish your homeworks before you start the quiz. It's going to help. We do have a couple of videos for Chapter 8 on some of the material that we're covering there. We have videos on Chapter 9, and just a note about the Chapter 9 videos, these last 2 are longer than you need to watch, but I didn't cut the video. I chose not to cut the video. I'm making a note here. You only have to watch it up through the shapes of 4 electron groups. Once it gets to that 5th electron group, you can turn the video off. So you only have to watch up to the information for 4 electron groups. You'll know what I'm talking about when you get into the video. One thing about this material, there's a little bit of calculations in Chapter 8. There's hardly any calculations here, but there is a lot of show your work because you are drawing Lewis structures. The homework for this week, you are drawing Lewis structures. So the homework is a little different in that there are a couple of questions where it's not going to be able to automatically check you. You have to draw those structures and say and get help with them, other than letting the file grade you. That's just the nature of it. However, we do have some students who've already started posting on the discussion board their answers, and so I encourage you to check the discussion board. This is in homework 10. Check the discussion board, and as you get to those, and see if you're right. The Lewis structures you have to draw, I don't remember which page they're on. These we've got a series of questions that are sort of attached. All right, this one, question 12. Draw all the Lewis structures, and you should check them, and you can check Google, but careful because Google's going to give you the wrong answer on a couple of them, and we've already started discussing that on the discussion board. You've got a couple of classmates who are actually a little early on this. And so you're going to be a little bit on your own to make sure that you get these checked. But I'm here to look at them. Your classmates are sharing on the discussion board. Let me encourage you to share on the discussion board because you don't want to get them wrong on the quiz. So essentially, your quiz will contain some of these or similar to these that you have to draw. So you want to make sure that you're drawing them correctly before you start in on the quiz. So again, these questions is just checking the box that you drew them and check them. All right. And so this is your homework. Again, you can come back and forth. There may be a couple more down in here where where you have to draw. I think the rest of it, I think they're just on page 2. I think the rest of it will actually check your answers for that. So that's your homework. You want to make sure that you have looked at that and gotten that checked before you start taking your quiz. The quiz you will have to turn in work. There is a Dropbox for your work. Here's a link to that discussion board if you want it here rather than going up through the top. But you will have to turn in your work, which will be showing me, some of it will be showing me those Lewis structures. So make sure I can read them. All right, you can always get to the quizzes here and you can get to the Dropbox here. I do recommend that you click on your homework and your quizzes here from content. That sort of keeps you in order so that you're not accidentally opening something early. And everything will always be linked in content. Your labs this week are fairly straightforward. There is a pre-lab again, and it is about drawing those Lewis structures. So for lab 7, your pre-lab is to draw all those Lewis structures and upload them, and then that will be checked on your lab. Your lab is about the structure and the shape, and it is self-graded, so it is self-graded. It's automatically graded, but it requires the correct Lewis structures in order to get those answers. And so that's why I split this up into a pre-lab. You've got to do this first and get those checked before you can get the correct answers down here for most of them. And so it's like last week, there is a pre-lab and a lab. Let me click on into it so that you can see. There it is. There we go. Again, this is the pre-lab. This is the lab. You will have some things to attach in the lab report as we've been doing the last couple of weeks. The quiz, I have you attach that afterwards because I don't want you taking quiz time to mess with your computer and do your uploading. The lab is not timed, so put it here. It's a little easier for us to grade if you have it in your lab report itself. It's right there with the question. We can grade it. But again, with the quiz, I don't have you do that because I don't want you taking up your quiz time messing with your computer. All right, the second lab is just a measurements lab. It does have several parts. You'll be watching a couple videos and looking carefully at pictures. And I think there's a suggestion in the procedure. This is actually your lab quiz. So you'll be reading all this previous material sort of as you perform this. So you're going to open this and then click back through the links to look at the information. And I suggest having 2 windows or tabs open might be helpful as you do this because you're going to be looking at a picture that's presented up above and then putting a number in the lab report itself from the picture. Ask on the discussion board if you have questions. You're welcome to talk with classmates about this. It's not timed, so you can come back and forth. All right, but it's taking measurements, doing some simple calculations. All right, guys, we have week 6 and 7, and then we're finished after this week. This is week 5. You got this. Hang in there. Keep an eye on the schedule. Let me pull that up. There you go. Right here, Monday, April 14th. All right, on the downhill slide. You got this, and we'll see you next week.